This is Keith Langford, and you're watching Time to Connect.
Hey, Keith Langford, thanks for taking the time to connect, man. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here, John. I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You probably don't remember this, but you probably don't remember me at all. But one of the things that over the years at Gourds shows, you've always been really nice to me, man. You've been that guy who I got the sense anyway that you kind of walked around showing some gratitude to the people who were there, and more than once you and I connected either before or after shows and had a good chat, and I really appreciate that, man.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm generally in a pretty good mood at a show. Sometimes after a show, I'm a little quiet because I get kind of tired. But
Yeah, I would imagine. So let's see, man. If you don't mind, let's start with a little bit of a bio thing. And let me first just ask you kind of a, not so much biographical, but ask you kind of an elusive question and just say, how do you tend to describe yourself? Who are you?
Shit. I mean, I just tell people that I'm a drummer, and I'm not a rock star, just a drummer. And I like to be with other musicians. That's where when I feel most comfortable, most myself. Whether that's at a truck stop or on a stage. I guess stage is better than truck stop, but they both happen, and I feel good at both of them.
Cool, man. Well, you're also a dad, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. So my son is a junior in high school, and he's a drummer as well. So
oh, cool.
We like to talk shop, the two of it. Whenever he wants to talk to me, we talk shop about drums and drummers, and it's a cool thing. My wife rolls her eyes like, "What are y'all talking about?" She recently has this thing where she says, "So is this in the pocket?" She thinks she's being real clever,
Yeah.
And Huck and I are like, "Yeah, man, really is in the pocket. You're right.
In the pocket." It's actually a pretty good. I like the metaphor myself. That's pretty good. So, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I'm from San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah, and I played, drums. My dad was a drummer. My dad's still alive, but he doesn't play drums anymore. But so there was always drums in the house when I was growing up. And I don't know. I guess the first time I ever played, I played with another musician was maybe like 7th grade, something like that. And then in high school, I was in bands. I was in a punk band, and then we had like a serious band, but our punk band became more successful than our serious band. But it was cool. I mean, my parents let me go. We played at this place called the Bone Club in San Antonio, which was where all the touring punk acts played, and we opened for lots of them. And then we even went up to Dallas and played at the punk place up there. And I can't believe my parents let me do that, but they did.
When you were how old?
I was in high school. I was like,
oh, that's cool.
I kind of started when I was a sophomore, and then junior, senior year, kind of just played more and more.
Yeah, well, that's cool that they trusted you to do that. So you said you opened up for a bunch of bands. Anyone come to mind?
Oh man, I mean, my claim to fame is the Minutemen.
Oh,
we opened for them, and I know, like all the Gourd guys, when they found that out, I got my cred went way up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. I talked to Mike Nicolai on one of these episodes, and I had to ask him who are some of the bands you've opened up for, and when he said he opened up for the Pixies, I was like, okay, man.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, yeah. So San Antonio, what were you like as a kid other than a drummer? Did you play sports? Did you consider any musical instruments, or was it drum?
I mean, I tried to play sports. I mean, I love the idea of golf, but I just suck at golf. So it's good to get that out there so that no one invites me. Um,
Great.
but yeah, I mean, I loved high school band as anything musical. I loved high school band as well, and I went and did that in college. I played jazz at TCU,
Okay.
um, and so I've always just, I mean, there's been a few times in my life when I've kind of gotten away from playing, but it always sort of creeps back in the door somehow. And so now, I mean, I've been doing it professionally since I was 20, 25, 24, 25, something like that.
So only 5
And
years.
yeah, and no stopping. I mean, the pandemic, I guess you could assume, was stopping.
You didn't get
But
that joke. You said you've been
oh,
since you were 25, and I said, so only 5 years.
I thought you said 25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm
That's
in my
probably
50s.
closer to it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Shinyribs now, and of course the Gourds before that. And were you with those guys in the earlier incarnations, or
No,
like?
so the
That's right. You
first,
took over for somebody in the Gourds, didn't you?
yeah, Charlie was his name, and Charlie was a Welsh guy, drummer that I just thought was the greatest thing ever. The way he played the tambourine and he kind of ran around the stage, and I was a huge Gourds fan. I was in some bands that played at the Electric Lounge around the same time that they were happening, and I actually knew the Picket Line Coyotes, the previous band. My band used to play with them every now and then, and I kind of knew those guys. So I was in Prescott Curlywolf and the Damnations and sort of those bands. And when the chance came up to be in the Gourds, I was like, okay, I'll do it.
That's super cool when you get invited to play and for one of your favorite bands. I mean,
I know. And I mean, I already knew all the songs, and it was just like, okay, this is a no-brainer and easy to do.
What a fun band. And of course, Shinyribs is amazing and so much fun. The live shows are just incredible. And you guys are working your butts off, man. Kevin's keeping you busy, isn't he?
Yeah. It's a heavily booked band, and some other incarnations of Shinyribs happened as a result of the pandemic, and like the Down Low, and of course Kevin plays by himself a lot, and that just sort of made more possibilities for more things to do, go play. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that band, so we've got to play a lot.
Yeah, that's what he said. He says, "Man, I got to make payroll. I got so many people." So, and you guys, how was South by Southby for you? It was, I got to hang out a little bit down there, and it felt really good this year. It just kind of felt like everyone was really happy that it was happening.
Totally. I got the same vibe. I mean, being at Lucy's was great. And then I have to say my highlight though was we put together a Pogues cover band to play on St. Patrick's Day, and it was Mark Craney, who's our sound guy, and Shinyribs, and an amazing musician himself. And so Claude from the Gourds was playing accordion.
Cool.
And that's the first time he and I have played together in 10 years. And so we had a couple practices, and we have this Pogues band now. We're ready to go. Like, if you want to hire us, we're ready to do it.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. And you said 10 years. Has it really been 10 years since the Gourds together?
Yeah. So Kevin and I were talking about this. I think it was 2009. Wait a minute. That's not right. 2013 was when we played our last show over at Threadgill's. Yeah. And so next year it will be that'll be 10 years, and maybe we can have some sort of anniversary something together. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll happen. Kevin and I talked a little bit about that, and he said, I'm going to put it out there in the universe. Hopefully Jimmy is receiving the vibes, and something will happen. So man, we sure would like to see that happen. Back to Shinyribs. What a what a live band. It just must be a lot of fun to play in that band, even if you're playing a live. Surely it doesn't get old. I'm curious, what kind of mindset do you have when you're walking on stage to play a gig with that band?
Well, so, you know, it's a little bit the same way it was in the Gourds, in that uh, changes and can happen at any moment within that show.
Yeah.
And so that makes, you know, you're a little on edge. You're not comfortable, you know, you're kind of on edge, like what's going to happen? Like, where's this song going to go? And I think that makes for an exciting show. I mean, but you're never like in a state of just like trance, like, you know, because you just don't know what's going to happen. So after 2 hours of that, it's pretty exhausting.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And you know, you mentioned you studied jazz in college, and so you know, at least to some extent, you're used to that sort of improvisation.
I know.
Vibe.
So the difference is, like, you're not improvising within a song. It's the show itself is an improvisation in a way. I mean, there is a set list, and generally it kind of stays the same, but the song might go longer, or the song might not happen, or you know,
or Kevin might throw a curveball at you.
Yeah, and now that, you know, in the pandemic we got technical. We went to the ear monitor.
Oh,
so
how is that?
Oh my God, it's gonna save my career. But for Kevin, that just meant, more freedom so he can roam, he can go all over the crowd, and he can still hear what he's hearing, and so he can hear what I'm doing, I can hear what he's doing, and so that's created a real, you know, kind of crazy thing that can happen in the set.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. I actually play music as well, and I've been thinking about getting those in-ear monitors. That they're pretty pricey, but everyone I've talked to says, man, you got to do it. It'll completely change the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think not to date you now, but
I'm old, man. I'm old.
For us, like, our ears are, you know, they're not what they used to be, and so it's super helpful, I think.
Yeah, especially when you've played on stage for this many years, your ears aren't what they used to be. Yeah, man. I'll be 66 here in a few weeks, so these ears are not young, and
right.
And so I think if I'm going to keep playing, I'm getting to where I have a hard time hearing things on stage, and especially, you know, I'll think it's going fine, and then the drums will come in, and I'm standing right in front of the drums, and it's like, oh man, now I can't hear anything. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
It's not even a volume thing. It's like, even if you're playing quietly, it can still, it's a trip. It's a weird trip, you know.
Cool. All right, man. I've got a bunch of kind of crazy questions to throw at you. Are you ready for that?
All right.
What pisses you off?
Man, I am pretty damn even keeled.
I can tell. Yeah.
You know, let's see. I hate mean people at the dog park.
Oh,
How about that?
That's really specific. I dig it. Mean people at the dog park.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? My dog's off leash. She's a golden retriever. She's not going to hurt anybody. You know that. I know that. Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. So do you have any kind of, my follow-up to that usually is, do you have any kind of meditation practice or spiritual practice, or some way to deal with the things in life that inevitably
I'm a huge yoga person. And I started to have some lower back stuff, drummer stuff. You know, I would say I was about 40, and I discovered that, and it is a curative thing for if you've had a lack of sleep, if you're on the road, and sometimes when you're on the road, sleep doesn't cure the sort of mental exhaustion that you're having. But yoga does, it's magic.
Right. It is great.
So I'm a big believer in that. I've tried to turn other musicians onto it, and some people dig it and some people don't, but I feel like everybody should do it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine you do, or do you just do it?
No, I do it. I kind of do it like I know when I need it.
Hmm.
And it ends up being once or twice a week, but it
Hmm.
could be like after a gig the next morning when I'm just exhausted, or it could be when I am fully rested and I just want to have a practice, you know.
Yeah, cool. Other than Shavasana, do you have a meditation practice?
I've never done it. I have a high school friend who is a big meditator, and I've been meaning to reconnect with him to kind of find out. But I know that he's a huge proponent of it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's really, there's so much misunderstanding about it. And I've been a meditator for many years, and I've actually gotten to where I'm teaching meditation quite a bit. Um, and I like to tell people it's about 20 years behind yoga, in the sense that, you remember, if maybe I'm not being fair, but we could pick some number, maybe it's 25 years ago. Here in Texas, at least, if you told someone you're going to go to a yoga class, a lot of reactions would have been, yoga?
Oh yeah, right. What's wrong
What's
with you?
that? Yeah. Now it's completely accepted. Everybody understands that you can get kind of new agey with it, and have all the accoutrements, the clothes, the materials and everything, or you can just stretch at Gold's Gym or whatever it is, and everything in between. And meditation is the same way, and it is changing a lot. But I, as little as a few years ago, I can tell you, I've brought it up in classes I've taught here at Texas A&M, and occasionally get that meditation. What does that have to do with anything? But people are finally getting it, and it's becoming more and more popular. And man, we need it. We live in this crazy world of busyness, stress, and distraction. And I mean, and this is a lot of it, but it's not just this. It's the whole. It's almost getting hard, isn't it, Keith, to remember what it was like when we were kids and we didn't have the internet, didn't have cell phones and all that?
That's the thing. Like for us, like we should be able to put that phone down, because we did have a long life without it, and yet somehow it's just converted our brains, and we can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had some moments where I've been able to do it, but really, it's been pretty much a failure. Whether it's social media, trying to get off social media, or just leaving my phone for the day. I should be doing a lot better than I am.
I think actually, maybe ironically, younger people cope better with taking a cell phone holiday, for example, than we do. And you're right. Intuitively, you would think we lived through so many years, but I don't know, man. It's something. They've done some really interesting studies that show people, if you take people's phones away, they exhibit classic signs of withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah,
just like they're withdrawing from a drug.
I believe it.
But at the same time, it's badass. I mean, it's phenomenal that what we have in our hands. It's just crazy. Okay, man. So let's see. Here's a question for you. What is the secret sauce? You get up to a couple of words. The secret sauce to a happy, fulfilled life.
The secret sauce to a happy, fulfilled life. Okay. Time outside. Shit, I'm just going there.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh man, I'm gonna have terrible bullshit about this.
Yeah. Yoga might be part of it.
Yeah.
Your answer. Yeah.
That has certainly helped me immensely. I really am a believer in the realizing our fortune, just how fortunate we are. And I have had somebody told me recently, well, that's true. And that whole saying of, these are first world problems. This person told me, I actually hate that saying, because, you might have real things happening in your life in this first world that are really affecting you negatively. But that being said, I really do spend the day thinking about those that are less fortunate or part of the day, and wishing good things for them. And that does kind of help me out. Stop bitching. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, man, uh, you didn't use the word gratitude, but that's the answer for me. I mean, you basically described gratitude. I think that's it, man. I like the time outside too, reconnecting outside with nature, but just having that gratitude and reminding ourselves, what are we complaining about? My God,
Yeah.
how good can our life be? So you're an outdoors guy. Do you do backpacking, camping, that kind of stuff, or you just like to get outside?
Well, when I became a professional musician, I thought I'm going to have all this time to go fishing and camping, and it doesn't work that way.
Not in
But
the Shinyribs.
no,
Too damn busy.
but I do love to camp, and I do love to hike. And my folks live out in the hill country. I just got back from there today. Um, and I thought, man, because of the drought, like, I hate seeing things in drought.
Mhm.
That are like 2011. I don't know if you remember that spring was just so stifled that year. And so I was a little reluctant to go on the hike I went on this morning, but I it was glorious. And even in drought, there was plenty of beauty happening.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Speaking of the hill country, you mentioned the hill country. Do you ever go to Kerrville? Are you a Kerrville guy, or have you been to the festival?
Oh yeah, we've played there
Oh,
many
that's right.
times.
You're playing this
Yeah,
year, aren't you?
we are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
as a
right.
kid, we went. My parents really aren't hippies, but we went a couple of times um, out there, and yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it is a great thing. I was lucky enough to go in some of those very early years. My parents actually lived in Kerrville in the mid '70s, and so I was. Yeah, otherwise I probably wouldn't have known what it was. But I got to hang out a little bit with some of those guys like Ray Wiley and Guy, and I'm pretty sure Towns was there in a little group I was with one year, but I wasn't quite sure. I don't think I knew who Towns was then, or had vague uh, knowledge
That's
of him
amazing.
anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Well, speaking of that, here's a good question for you. We're just kind of getting to know you a little bit, Keith, with these questions. I hope you don't mind this.
No,
What
it's
are
good. I hope you don't mind my shitty answers, but I'm going to do my
Not at
best.
all, man, not at all. What are, if I ask you some of the shows you have attended that you not played but been to, whether it's when you were a kid or even recently, what comes to mind is some of those memorable shows that you've been to?
Well, so when I was in high school, I was a rocker, and so I just some of those childhood shows, whether it was Bob Seger or
Hmm.
AC/DC or those have stayed with me forever because I was with my dad and
Yeah,
it was in San Antonio and it was loud and smelled like weed and I mean I was hooked, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, but some other stuff like I saw Max Roach play. That was
Wow.
amazing. Um, and then I mean we some of us Gourds guys got to see Tom Waits when he came that year for South by Southwest. I mean that's still just like when people say what's the best concert you've ever seen, I always say that one because he and the band and the percussion and the stand-up bass and the way that he held the crowd, and I mean it was something else.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing. I got to see him a couple times way back in the '70s, and his
Oh
vibe,
man.
his vibe has changed a lot, but he was incredible. And an amazing performer. Yeah, that's cool. And what's maybe some of the most memorable shows you've played? What comes to mind?
I mean the Austin City Limits tapings that I've done are magical as can be.
Yeah.
um, and some of the out of country, some of those Amsterdam shows like at the Paradisa and things when in the Gourds days, those were really
Yeah.
so memorable. And just a lot of those tours that we did that would go to you know, Missoula or San Francisco. Those are amazing.
Hmm.
But you know, it's the euphoria of those of a show, like when you play one of those things, like that, you know, like something really like in Shinyribs, we did the Ryman with Robert O'Keen on that tour. And that was one of those moments like, oh my God, I'm gonna remember this for my whole life, you know.
Yeah.
But then a couple of days later it's gone and you're like, shit, man, I'm nothing. I need to play a good gig. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that inevitable letdown. I guess remember the first gig I played that went really well, and people were into it, and they were singing along and dancing, and the energy was great. And I remember walking off that stage saying, I want more of that.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty cool thing. Well, let's see. So who are some of the drummers, man? You mentioned Max LaRoche. Who are some of the drummers who have influenced you and that
Well, I was
you've
just
dug
thinking
over the
about
years?
this when you asked about the shows. I should have said this. You know, my grandmother took me to see Louis Bellson in San Antonio, and I was a big Buddy Rich kid,
Hmm.
seeing him on the Muppet Show. I still am. I mean, I worship Buddy Rich and his asshole ways. But Louis Bellson, just as good, crazy, wonderful chops, but he was smiling and he was happy. And my grandmother said he was playing with Pearl Bailey, who I think was maybe his wife at the time. My grandmother said, "See, this is why he's better than Buddy Rich. He's having a good time. He's not scowling."
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me, like, because it is supposed to be fun. It's not, if it's a
Yeah.
drag, it's like, come
Yeah.
on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say some other, you know, I love Stuart Copeland. I love Stan Lynch, Tom Petty's drummer.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, his
I
old
love,
drummer.
yeah, old
Yeah.
drummer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, just a lot of those kind of straight ahead, Charlie
Uh-huh.
Watts and Phil Rudd, and you know, those are all my favorite rock drummers.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a Centromatic show?
Yes, in fact, the Gourds played with them in London one time, and I live in the same neighborhood now with Will, and his son and my son are in high
Perfect.
school band drumline together,
That's perfect.
which is so cool. And Matt, right, was their drummer. That, I mean, it
Matt
was
Pence. Yeah.
so good. They were so good.
There's the reason I brought it up. There's something, favorite drummers can just be maybe on record or whatever, but there's also something about just that stage presence. And Matt has something that I've rarely seen. When I went to Centromatic shows, I couldn't stop watching him. There was just
Yeah,
something about his vibe that was just amazing.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm actually, I don't know that I've really revealed this, so this may be some kind of big reveal, but since we're talking about Will, I'm actually shepherding a project right now, a book project about Will.
Oh, neat.
And basically I'm serving as editor and shepherd. And I thought, oh, when I got the idea, I thought this won't be too hard because other people are going to do all the writing. It's been a nightmare, man. And it's gone on forever, but I've got some amazing little essays from people like Jason Isbell and Patterson Hood, and just a bunch of people singing, Jim James singing the praises of Will. He's
He
one of those,
inspired a lot of people.
he did. And
Yeah.
he's one of those guys that a lot of people like yourself know a lot about him, but a lot of people who should know him don't, which has kind of inspired me to put that book together. But it's a classic case of be careful what you ask for, because I'm knee deep into it now. Well, let's see. Guilty pleasures. Do you have any guilty pleasures that you would share with us?
I mean, my first thought was like, dessert food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I freaking love dessert. I gotta quit doing it, but that's kind of a stupid one, but it's true. I mean, I love sci-fi. You know, I love anything sci-fi. I'm just doing this thing called Raised by Wolves, which is Ridley Scott's new Oh my God, it's amazing. It's such good it's like the best sci-fi in the last 10 years, I think.
Cool. Where can I see that?
I think it's HBO Max,
Okay.
but it
Okay.
is so trippy and good.
Cool, man. So you're the son of a drummer and you're the dad of a drummer. What kind of advice do you give your son about drumming?
Well, it's funny, like, well, he doesn't want to hear my advice about drumming itself. I mean, that stopped at like 6th grade or something. And I never pushed him on it. It was just, we were around together a lot during the day when he was little, and we would just mess around for fun. And it kind of blossomed into something else for him. But um, I mean, we do talk about other drummers and what they're doing and what's cool and what's not cool. But he doesn't want to hear me say like, "Oh man, you should play the ride louder," or whatever it is. Like, he doesn't want to hear that from me. Um, but he does. So he wants to go on and study in jazz drumming in college, and so we're at the age where we're doing all that. And I do tell him like, "Hey man, this is you're going to be sleeping on couches. You're going to be all of that whole part of it." And I explained to him how fortunate I've been, and it's been a very lucky career. And we were having coffee the other day. He's like, Dad, I wish you'd quit trying to bring me down with. He's like, I already know all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, I've done my job. Like, you know
awesome,
that part
man.
of it.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, cliche question. You get one record, one album, and that's it.
I'm saying Redheaded Stranger. I'm in thick
right
with
there.
Willie right now.
Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah. Cool. Okay. How about Bob? What about Bob? Dylan, what are your I'm asking, I totally geek out on Dylan, so I'm asking all my guests.
Man, I am not a Bob geek, and I admit it. I should be, like all musicians, it's just not my good. It's like, it's like the Stones or Beatles things. It's like some people just didn't go there and I didn't, and like, so I'm not a good one to ask, but dear Lord, I should, right? Why have I not dove in, like,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is contextual too. I've said to a couple other guests on this topic, I understand if you're 20 years old right now and you listen to Dylan for the first time and didn't really have all the context, you might say, well,
right.
I don't get it. What's the big deal? But he did sort of blow a hole in the universe.
Yes.
In 1965, and not just then, but he when you have the context and when you understand the context, and it's he's just endlessly fascinating.
There's the PBS doc that came out recently. I mean, so that I was trying to get my son and my wife to watch that, because that did blow open for me, just watching him in those days in that context do that. I was like, see,
yeah,
listen to that. That's a super cool doc.
Yeah, right on, man. Let's see. How about books? Are you a reader? Do you read much?
Oh yeah, I love to read.
So what is some of
right
that?
now I'm reading
sci-fi guy?
No, I like to read I don't know, I like ancient civilization stuff, like Mayan stuff. Or right now I'm reading a book about Teddy Roosevelt. When he lost to Woodrow Wilson, he was about our age, and the way that he dealt with negative stuff in his life was he would go on an adventure. And so he has decided to go to the Amazon and explore a river that's called the River of Doubt, that's never been explored. And it's insane. I mean, this is before antibiotics, and they're just like, so that's what I'm reading right now. I'm not sure what it's called. That's a problem with the Kindle, is like,
yeah,
I don't know authors and book titles because I just launch right into it.
Yeah, it's like Spotify. We've lost the tangible thing of holding that book or holding that LP. Remember when you were a kid and you bought an LP and you came home and put on the headphones and and just consumed the album jacket and read every word over and
Yes.
over again when you're listening. Those days apparently are gone. I hope. Do you think the era of the album is you think we're there yet, or it's going to happen and it's just
Isn't
going to
it
be
funny? Like, so we were just talking about Mike Nikolai. Like, so his record shop is just down the street from me.
right? Great record
And
store.
it is. And my son loves to go in there and look at records, and he looks at my records. And so I think that's still there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know how big it's going to get, but it's not going to go away.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I agree. And I think, by the way, back referencing earlier conversation about how busy we all are in this culture of distraction, I think that's one of the reasons why LPs have made a resurgence, because it requires you to be more participatory and to actually put the record on and lay the needle on and turn it over when it's got that tangible thing. As convenient and as cool as digital is, it misses that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, what's a book that if you had to pick a couple of books just in your life that you'd say favorite books you've ever read that you would maybe go back and read again?
I mean, Thoreau's Walden. I mean, my son's name is Henry David.
Wow.
Because I read that, and so I've only read that book. I was just talking to someone about this, like needing to go back and reread favorite books and how probably great that is going to be.
Yeah.
But last time I read that, I was probably 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I should go back and reread that.
You should. It's an excellent book, though. I got to tell you, there's a lot of romanticism about it that is not very founded in reality. I remember when I was a kid, it was an influential book for me too, big time. And I have pictured him as being a hermit, In reality, the whole time he was out there, he was walking into town, seeing people are coming to see him,
having a beer in town, and then talking about, I love that. So funny.
And if that appeals to you, Mike Nikolai actually turned me on to a book I think it's called Stranger in the Woods. It's about the North Pond hermit up in Maine, a guy who is a true hermit.
Oh.
And Keith, he lived out in the wilderness year round for 27 years.
Wow.
And in that time had one encounter with another human being.
Unreal.
It is. And the book is really cool too. I'm pretty sure it's called Stranger in the Woods, but yeah, you might like that one. Well, let's see. What are you most proud of?
My family, for sure. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
I'm just a
says.
family person, a lot of us are.
Well, you're lucky, man, in the sense that you seem to be a guy who has it all. You get to be a rock and roll drummer and live that life, but you also have a obviously a great family, and you're obviously an organized, well together guy.
Thank you. I mean, I am a lucky guy for sure.
Do you see it that way? Because I mean, a lot of people, let's face it, a lot of our friends, when they went into music, it was sort of, they had to make a choice, and for whatever reason, and their lives were going to be pretty difficult, and there's no way they were going to have a family or have any kind of quote normal family life. But some of us somehow pulled it off, and you're one of those guys.
Absolutely. I don't take a day of it for granted.
Right on. Okay, let's see. I'm going to ask just one or two more questions. I'm going to let you go, unless there's something you want to talk about.
Well, I was going to ask you about Texas A&M, but we can do that off the.
Okay, I'll just tell you quickly. It's A&M is not someplace that I gravitated towards. I didn't grow up in Texas, so I didn't know anything about A&M. I moved to Texas in my senior high school year, and I visited A&M, and I thought, no, I'm not going there. It's a cult. It's some kind of weird cult-ish thing. Plus, the conservative nature of it didn't really jive with my more liberal nature. I ended up in Denton at North Texas for many years. I kind of got lost in Denton for many years. But when I got this job teaching at A&M, I moved here from Austin, actually, and I was a little worried about it. Man, it's been a great place. I've lived here for 30 or 26 years now, and it's been a fabulous place to live. I mean, I got burnt out on the traffic in Austin, and it's
so bad.
It's 2 hours away, you know, and Houston's an hour and a half the other way, and we live out in the country, not really in the country, but I mean, I'm on septic and propane, and I've got a couple acres, but I can be on campus in 12 minutes driving. So it's kind of nice.
My great grandfather was mayor of College Station. And so I grew up going to see Guga at Aggie games. And the architecture school is named after him. And my grandfather lived in Bryan College Station, and he was the guy with the maroon cowboy hat and just bigger than life Aggie, wonderful character. And because I didn't want to be in the Corps, and same with my son, he doesn't want to be in the Corps. It's like we don't have any connections anymore over there, you know. But it was wonderful as a kid going to see all that.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've been over here?
Probably since my grandmother passed away, which is probably 5 years ago. But I haven't like gone on campus to walk around or anything like that. It's
changed a whole lot, man. And I just realized as you were talking that I saw the Gourds in downtown Bryan. That had to be like 2005, something like that.
Yep, I remember that venue. It was an upstairs.
That's right. And I remember my friends were saying, "Oh man, I hope they play gin and juice." And I said, "They're not going to play gin. They don't play gin and juice at shows. They don't do that." And you guys played it. And I was like, I think they just figured, look, if we're in Austin or someplace and people are shouting gin and juice, we're not going to do it. But at College Station, yeah, we'll do it there. Yeah.
It was such a mind fuck for poor Kevin, figuring out when to play that and when to not play it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey man, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you taking the time to connect. I just have a couple more questions for you. What do you think happens when we die?
Okay, so what I say, and this is not a new idea, but like I like the idea that we join with the universe. Okay, so and in that all of the things become known to us. You know, anything that you might want to know, whether it was in the past or the future, it's all just connected. To me, that's like a brilliant thought. And I just want to have that thought. Like, I want to know what it was like to be around the dinosaurs. And I want to know what the future looks like, what other planets look like. And I feel like once our physical presence is gone, it can only mean that whatever made up our physicalness is now part of the whole again. I don't know which religion that is. But that's my vision of when I'm gone.
Very cool, man. Very cool. And speaking of that, my last question is, when you are dead and gone, what do you hope people say about you?
I mean, I hope that they say I was a good father and a good person, that I treated people well, and that I left the world a better place. It's getting harder to do, right? I mean, how do we do that? How do we leave the world a better place for our kids and their kids when shit's so fucked up? It's really hard, I think, to figure out. The greatest generation, it was, you know, they were still expanding the world, but now the world needs to contract, and I don't know how. That's a hard thing to do, you know.
One day at a time, man. One person at a time, and I think you sort of answer your own question in the sense that just somebody who a good dad and somebody who is, you know, positive influence on people. And like I said when we started, man, you were that guy for me at the Gourds. You were the only person who just kind of approached me and struck up a conversation, and you made me feel welcome. And I think that's how we do it, just one person at a time. So
that's all we can do. So I do like that.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for taking the time to connect. I appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing a Shinyribs show sometime in the near future, and I'll holler at you when I do.
Right on. We'll come say hi again.
Right on. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.